this one was a short lease. Now, everything looked fantastic at the rate. We had our primary exit strategy was to sell, but it would have been very good as a buy-to-let as a secondary option. And then all of a sudden, Liz Truss got into power, and as we all know, the market changed a little bit. The interest rates went up, and my joint venture partner decided that it was too risky. So I had to offer less money, and that took several months of constantly being, going back to the agent, discussing with them, and until eventually the vendor accepted the new lower offer.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Got it for an extra 20,000 less. So that's what we're going through now, and we are literally coming up to being able to exchange contracts. We do have bridging finance potentially in place for that, so we're looking at that. But it is one that personally I'm actually starting to look for private investment on, because it would be nice to start working with some private investors who would then be interested in going in on this deal, which has got a nice return, and we can offer a good return for their money on that, and then potentially work with them on future projects going forward as well.
Oh, I love it. I thought you were gonna say, and then it didn't happen. Like you sound like it all went much more swimmingly. The whole debacle that happened in that final quarter last year, we lost a deal that had been going on for 8 or 9 months. So that was very, very sad and upsetting.
Well, we nearly did. It was nearly gone. My joint venture partner, it still would have worked. It was just a little bit more on edge. My joint venture partner is quite risk averse, so we pulled out, and but didn't just pull out. I mean, at that point, I said, I was very apologetic to the agent. I said, look, I want you to know that this is the market situation at the moment. We don't feel confident that we can carry on, but we'd still love to do it. And at that point, I put forward a lower offer, but I said, look, we can continue with the same offer, even add a bit more if they're interested in doing a purchase lease option. But presented the purchase lease option perhaps incorrectly, because the agent doesn't really understand what the purchase lease option is, and therefore wasn't going to put it to the vendor properly. So that didn't go ahead. I've learned how to sell that a little bit better these days. But eventually, I just kept staying in touch with the agent, taking them biscuits, taking them a little Christmas present, and saying, hey, we're still here. Do you think they're interested now? And eventually he actually, I think, started pushing my corner with the vendor, saying that this is the best option. No one else is coming in with anything of interest. If you want to get rid of it, give it to Hamish. So she did. She's come back, and yeah, we're trying to get the final bits of paperwork. But this is a short lease project.
Yeah, tell us. I was going to find out more about that, because I'm looking at some of these with my sons. So they are, well, I say they, by huge encouragement from their mother, would like to get into property. And around us, there's some really good 1 to 2 bed conversion opportunities, but quite a few of them have got short leases. So tell us all about it. Tell us all about it.
Well, okay. So perfect. I mean, that's exactly the sort of project that can often do quite well. I mean, the one I've got is all about the purchase number, and then just the extending the. But
how long is the lease currently?
The lease is currently 61 years.
Okay, so you're still in that 60 year, because isn't it something to do with above 60 years? It's not, there are certain less limitations than if it's below 60 years.
Well, typically what it is it's actually the lenders who put the restrictions on these things. So for those who don't know, a lease of less than 80 years starts getting you issues with lenders. And a lot of lenders, particularly your standard high street lender, will not give a mortgage on a property that has less than 80 years lease. and therefore they, the agents and everyone starts putting it out to cash buyers only. Once it gets to 60 years, then you get a reduction in the amount of lenders who will let lend. And again, yeah, once it's down to 50 years, even less. No one will give any kind of loan on anything that's about 12 to 15 years. So that basically don't buy a property of at least that's that short. But it is a relatively straightforward process, as long as you have a solicitor who's experienced in it. And what you'll need to do, there are a couple of methods to do it, but the way we're going forward is my solicitor. I have a solicitor who is specialised in lease extensions, and so they've written up the Section 42 notice. Now, in the purchase, we will have it in the contract that the vendor solicitor has to then send this Section 42 notice off to the freeholder, but to have it assignable to us. If you don't do this, then you have the risk of it taking 2 years before you're allowed to start the process. But you do have to make sure that you've got the Section 42 notices being completed and has been made assignable and is done on from the vendor and is then assignable to you, because otherwise you don't have a right to serve this notice to a freeholder until you've owned a property for 2 years.
And does the freeholder have to acknowledge receipt? Do they have to have agreed it? How far along in the process do you have to do it before you can complete on the purchase?
So once you've you send the Section 42 notice out with the exchange of contracts. So the contract will be done. The vendor will then send out the Section 42 notice, and once that has been done, then you will be able to complete, and that Section 42 notice is assignable to you. From the date that the Section 42 notice is sent, the freeholder then has 2 months where they are allowed to have 2 months before they respond. So and within 2 months, whatever you have put forward as a figure, a negotiation figure, they can come back and say, yes, okay, we accept that, or no, we don't accept it and we want a higher amount. Now, this should all have been assessed by your surveyor. You send in a surveyor, they do the calculations for you, and they will give you a negotiation range. They'll give you a lower end and then a higher figure, which they know defendable in a tribunal should the freeholder put up any protests.
Wow, that sounds exciting. That's it is quite, there is quite a lot there, isn't it? But it just sounds like, because that's sort of some, it's interesting that you're on. I'm really hoping to get Jason Patterson on, because he's fabulous. Just to find, because Bernie Wales, isn't it? He's the big one on YouTube, yeah. But he's retired or retiring.
Well, you certainly can't get hold of him. That's
no. So
my first port of call.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that Bernie deals with much sort of a wider scope, whereas Jason is much more kind of 3-4 flats in a block type thing that he really likes. So for me, it's been this quarter is this first half of the year is sort of really learning about that. Where did you go and get your sort of information for short leases and this kind of stuff? And is it inherently, you seem really confident? It sounds like you've just got a really great power team who are experienced. Is that kind of giving you that confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did a lot of research, online research, and looked at Bernie Wales, and did a lot of looking online. And it's going to miss my memory now while I'm talking to you on here. But there is a website that a government website that gives you all of the details that you really need on it. But then the next thing, I found a surveyor in the area who an expert in doing lease extensions, and then got a recommendation from him for who to use as a solicitor. And the rest of it was talking with the solicitor and having them just sort of reaffirm the things that I had learned. And everything sort of fit into place with what I'd studied on. So I did the self-training and then had it backed up by a professional.
Wow, amazing. And do you mind sharing some of the sort of numbers around it, Hamish?
Yeah, so the initial asking price for the property was 200,000. My first offer that I put in was 160, but then that has now been reduced to 140.
Wow.
Accepted. So a big reduction there. The lease extension, we're putting in an offer. We're suggesting 25,000 to extend the lease. However, the worst case scenario we're expecting is 36,000 plus their legal fees. So we budgeted 40,000 for the lease extension. And then once it has been extended, the average property of similar size in that area should sell. We've gone in at about 250,000, though the surveyor who did our premium sort of appraisal, to see how much it would cost. He is also a RIT surveyor, and very nice guy. Quite happily volunteered a little bit of extra information to us and suggested that actually we really undervalued the property and he would expect it to go for 270 to 275,000. Wow. So I think our worst case scenario is we should be looking at about a 28% return on investment, but best case we might be getting 45%. Amazing,
and it sounds like a no money left in deal as well.
Yeah, well, it certainly would be if at the moment we're probably thinking we want to sell it. I need to look into more service accommodation options for it to see whether that would cover. But as a buy to let, it's a little. I think we'd have to have a 50% loan to value on it to be able to cover the interest rates at the moment.
And what is it? Sorry, we never asked. Is it like a 2-bed or 1-bed?
Yeah, two beds, both en suite. And then there's
Does it need much work doing to it?
It literally, we're going to do a soft refurb. So paint throughout, fresh paint throughout, make it look a little bit more stylish than it does in the moment. And then change the cupboard doors. The cabinets are in really good condition. So it'll be just take off the doors and attach new ones. And then I was actually thinking just a simple laminate coating for the kitchen work surfaces. And, just as much as anything, a nice soft, fairly low cost refurbishment, because the rest of the property is in great condition.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like a great deal there. And is it in Oxford? Sorry to interrupt, Wendy.
Yeah, it's a little bit south of Oxford. Yeah, so very much a Oxford commuter town, even London commuter belt from that area.
So was the challenge in selling it then for the owners because of the short lease, and that's why you got it at such a good price?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the agents from day one have just put investors, cash buyers only on there.
Right.
So that scared a huge amount of people off, and people don't know the process of extending a lease. If you don't know how to do it, then it can be quite a dangerous area to go into, because freeholders, in certain cases, can be quite ruthless, and the longer they make a mistake, the more money they can make out of it. And so, of course, as I say, if you don't know that how to get that Section 42 notice sent out and assigned, and if you want to do it yourself, which many people would try and do, then they will look for just even a spelling mistake, and that can set you back 2 years. So yeah, it's knowing the process, and actually the vendor seems to have not understood the process herself, because she seems to be an international investor who's come in and has bought the place cash, thinking, great, it's got about 70 years on it, not realizing that actually she's already in the danger zone.
Interesting. Sounds like a opportunity to join the Authors Club and write a book about it, Hamish.
Well, yeah, it has taught me a lot, and it is a strategy that I think is something that I would be very much interested in going forward with.